Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's event entitled Excel for Research, Power BI, and the Cloud. To learn more about the ways you can participate in today's event, please click on the Q&A button in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. Today's session is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. If you do not consent to being part of a recorded session, please disconnect your line at this time. Attendees will be able to access the meeting recording via a link that will be delivered within 48 hours post-webcast. We encourage you to use the Q&A panel at any time to ask questions regarding the content or to request support. To do so, please click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, type your question into the gray box, and click Send Question. Your question will appear under the pending messages until someone responds. If you experience any technical difficulties during today's webcast, please click on the Having Trouble Viewing link, the information page for troubleshooting tips. Or you can ask a question and I will help you resolve the issue. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. One moment, please, while I start the recording. Welcome to today's webcast, Excel for Research, Power BI, and the Cloud. Kenji, you now have the floor.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for one of our Windows Azure for Research webinars. We're really delighted to have Jeff Zhang here to talk about Excel and particularly some of the new features in Power BI, which is really the great tool for dealing with data and visualizing and understanding your data. So we're really happy that Jeff is joining us to take you through that. Our Windows Azure for Research program is a global program where we're working with the research community to help them understand, get on board, and really make use of cloud computing for their work. So we have a website, azureforresearch.com, and you can follow us on Twitter on at Azure for Research. And also for the Power BI team, at Microsoft BI is the Twitter account for that. So with that, I'd like to hand over to Jeff, who's going to talk a bit about Excel and Power BI and then do some great live demos, and then I shall catch up with everyone at the end. So thanks very much, and over to you, Jeff.
Okay, thank you, Kenji. Hello, everyone. This is Jeff Zhang. I'm a program manager from Microsoft Excel team. Today, I'm going to show you the power of Excel Power BI, walk you through a couple of scenarios of using Excel Power BI to process and visualize the research data and get quicker data insights in a more intuitive manner. Hopefully, after this 40 minutes demo, it can help you to see the potential of the Excel Power BI and probably help you to start making use of it in your daily research work. So I'm not a researcher, I'm just an engineer, but here is a diagram that one researcher from Microsoft Research in Redmond here told me that doing research requires a lot of intellectual horsepower to get insights from complex multi-source data all through different or combined perspectives. The more data you have, the better you can develop ideas or insights. However, in real world, there's a dilemma that the more volume or complex data you got, the more time it takes you to process it and make it even usable. So the majority of your time, from what I heard, is about 80% were consumed by working on the tedious data discovering, cleaning, or formatting job. You can tell me if that is the case in your daily work. What we really want is to use a tool that you are probably already familiar with to greatly shorten the time of data pre-processing and quickly generate meaningful and interactive visuals. Help you to gain quicker data insights upon the massive data you got. And what you really want is to save your time on shaping the data, unleash your brain power, and put it on the real research work. We think the Power BI tools that we produced from Microsoft can help you out. So BI, when I gave the presentation to some of the conference, to the research people, they don't quite know what is BI. Actually, BI stands for Business Intelligence. Microsoft has developed BI solutions for over a decade for enterprises to digest the sheer volume of data that's increasing each day. Power BI is a recent offering from Microsoft based on Office 365 that empowers individual users to intellectually process and visualizing their data in the data processing tool that they're already familiar with, which is Excel. So actually, Power BI is composed by a set of features. There are Power Pivot, which is a highly efficient in-memory engine compressing and indexing data in Excel, and allows Excel to handle millions rows of data. And then it's Power Query, which is a tool help you to find, connect to, and compile data from various resources. And then it's PowerView. Essentially, PowerView is an interactive dashboard, help you to get data insights from combined perspectives. And the last one is PowerMap, which allows you to put a special time series into one view to generate geo-based active diagrams. Okay, that's enough talking. Let's put our hands on some real data, see how to make use of these powerful tools. So here on this slide, it's a set of stream flow data from Guadalupe River, which is a river resides in the Texas, United States. So I got this data from a professor from University of Washington who is doing the environmental study. So I believe he got this data from some public website which records the stream flow on different spots alongside the Guadalupe River in Texas. On this slide, you see that these different tables shows the raw data from the devices, and I'm not sure whether you see similar data that in your daily work. Probably it's even better formatted than the ones that you got. So just take a closer look at this data. I want you to take a moment to think. So with the tools of doing data processing that you are using today, probably also Excel, how would you process this data? And answers the questions like what was happening on the Guadalupe River in terms of stream flow during a period of time, says that from June to October in 2013. So I'll just give you 10 seconds to think about it. So I see, I'm not sure what kind of solutions that you have in your mind already, but I see there are a few challenges here. First, you see that on this sheet, you see that the name of the sensor, the latitude, longitude, which is the position information, and the stream flow is put in the same column. So if we want to produce any visuals, we probably want to move the latitude, longitude into the column instead of the row, and also the name of the sensor as well. That's the first thing that we need to do. And the second thing, take a closer look at the datetime. You see the datetime here is the raw data from the device. I'm sure that you probably see the similar data, which is some like data that's kind of programmed in this way when the device was installed. However, this kind of data format, which is a pure text, doesn't mean anything to the charting tool like Excel, right? This is not a normal or understandable datetime format that can be easily understood by Excel. We need to do some process on that. And the lastly that I can say is that these time intervals, which is like every 15 minutes, it's something that we can have, but not necessarily that we need to have this granularity. So we might need to do some aggregation of data. So those are the things that are coming to my mind when I first touch this data. So I'm not sure how would you visualize that after we process the data, how would you visualize that the data should be presented? Maybe it's like a two-dimensional line chart that represents the stream flow of one sensor or average stream flow across the different spots on the river on different time as the axis. So that could be one possibility. But another possibility, which is something that I produced using our Power BI tool is something like this. So I'm not sure whether you noticed that, but here is a video that is essentially putting a chart on a map. So these different spots represents different geoposition of the sensors alongside the Guadalupe River, and the height of each column actually means the stream flow of that moment when it plays. So I'll play it again. You can take a look again to see what it means. So see that when I play it, the time actually is changing over here, indicates which day that is the data represent at the moment. So you see the animation, and probably you see a spike sometime in the middle, which is actually happening in October. So this actually tells not only that how the stream flow, how to say, looks like on the different part of the river is in our map very directly, but also it added a time axis, tells you that in the different time across the year, how the stream flow changes. The spike that you see in October is actually something happening only on these three spots, but not on the upper streams. So there must be something happening in this area. I'll play that again. Notice when it comes to October, there's a spike. So once we see this kind of animation, we start to develop thinkings further on beyond the data we got. Like the spike that I just mentioned, you will ask yourself a question: why this is happening? What happened over in this area during that time frame? Actually, I present the same thing to some of the researchers in the conference that I called AGU. So they told me, some of them actually from that area of Texas, they told me that during October there was a heavy rain last year in October happening just in this part of the state. That's why the stream flow has spiked only in these few spots, but not in the upstream, just the downstream. So tell me whether you feel it's interesting. I feel it's always very, very fascinating to grab the data insights through this kind of visual way. So to generate something like that video, we need to put everything, as I mentioned earlier, that we need to put everything into one table. For example, we need to put the name of the sensor in one column, and then the latitude, longitude, and daytime, and the stream flow in different columns. Seems it's very easy, right? But from the raw data that we just look at a second ago, it's actually not that easy just to handle that in Excel. Maybe you can think a lot of ways to do that, but it's not just easy, it takes time. So how can we do that? So let me show you some live demo on how to use the Power Query tools. Go back. The raw data. So basically, in this workbook, it contains several spreadsheets. In each spreadsheet, essentially, is the data that we got from the sensor. And this is original data that I didn't process at all. So those represents the different sensors alongside the river. So to handle that, well, we are using a tool called Power Query. To make use of that, I just make a table first. You see that even just for this one sensor, this 4 months data is like more than 12,000 rows. It's a lot of data. And then when I switch to Power Query, which is something that you will get when you have Power BI offerings together with your Office 365 subscription. Then you will have this Power Query tab. So on Power Query tab, you can see that you can get data from different places. You can get data from the existing workbook and also some other data operations. Now what we want to do is just to put this data into Power Query to do the pre-processing. I'll click this button to import data from make a table first, and then go back to Power Query, import this data into Power Query, and then you see there's a separate window coming up. So this is a separate window from Excel, but looks similar in terms of the layout of the UI. So this part is the canvas, shows the grid data with the data you just imported. And this part is the ribbon, shows all the functions that you can use to operate the data. And on the right-hand side gutter, it shows the properties of the data set, as well as the steps that you can see that when you perform the operations, will shows the different steps over here. So what I want to do here is that I want to do several things. Remember, I want to put this into columns. I want to do some data processing for this datetime column data. And I also want to do some aggregation. First of all, I don't need these several rows of data because I want to organize the data into a column manner. Let's say that I want to just remove them for a moment. So it's very easy. I can just choose to remove top rows and remove the first 6 rows because this is 6 rows over here. And then just through 2 clicks, I have this pure data of the datetime and the corresponding stream flow data that I got here. So I just double click to change the title to be datetime and stream flow. That's the first step. And you see there's a step over here shows that what I did. And I can navigate through the steps to repro what I was doing. See, this is the original data and do the first remove first columns and then rename the column title. So next, what I want to do is to, there's a bug over here, which is datetime. And then what I want to do is to process this datetime column. So as I mentioned before, you see this datetime, it runs the date and then with the T and then time. And then some numbers at the tail probably represents how much time it takes to record the data. So how can we handle that? First, I think I need to extract date from this text. So what I want to do is to select this column and split the column by some delimiter. So Power Query allows you to split column by different characters like column, comma, equal sign. And in this case, I want to split column, use the character T because you see T is essentially the separator between the date and time. So I'll type T here, split from the left, and then automatically it generates 2 columns for me. One is the column represents the date, and the other is the column represents the time. But the time itself doesn't really looks right because if you like go back to the previous lab, so it says that Power Query intelligently changed the column type for me after I split column. However, the change of the second column is incorrect because this represents the like 12 a.m. instead of 10 p.m. So I think it's because of this messy string format here. What I need to do is to revert back and don't let it change the type for me automatically. And if I want to further process to extract the time, what I can do here, tell me, from what I did just now. Yeah, probably you already see that I can split the column again by using the character of dot, right? You see the dot here, which separates the time and the time span on collecting the data. So I can use this dot. But here I just want to show you another power or another way of doing it, which is using the number of characters. Because you see the time always use the 8 characters here. I can say that I use the 8 number of characters to separate the column from left. Select this column here. Separate it by 8. And you see this time it's right, because now it can correctly understand this is 12 a.m. and this is the time. So this is something I may not need to do the representation because it's all the same, right? So I can just delete it. And here you see the date and time. So I mentioned earlier that we want to do some aggregation. For example, when I represent this 4 months data, which is like more than 12,000 rows of data, I may not need that granularity. So I just need the data average by day. So what I can do here is that I can say that group the data by datetime point 1, which is the first column. And I want to make a new column called flow average and do the operation of average out the stream flow column. So once I click OK, you will see that there's only 2 columns left. One is the original datetime column, which is sorted by date, and the other is the stream flow column, which is a new column that aggregates the data by date. See that? It's very convenient, right? Before, when I want to do that, I may need to write some like algorithms in the using VBA or use complicated formulas in Excel to do that. But now you see that to achieve this is very easy. I just need a couple of clicks, and then the purpose is achieved. So let me revert back. Say that I also present this to some of the graduate students. They ask me a question and says that, hey, sometimes I don't want to see the data by date because I also want to see like in one day, what's the average stream flow across different hours. So what I can do here is to, instead of group by day, I can also group by time, right? Instead of group by the first column, I can group by the second column, says that I can group by the time that I collect the data, and also aggregate the second column, and then you achieve the same goal. So I'll just save that step here. I'll just save that step here because, you know, essentially we're going to use this data. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is to add back 2 columns that I mentioned earlier that we want to add the latitude data and the longitude data. How can I do that? I can just simply insert a column and put the value as, let's say, name this set of data as Guadalupe at comfort. Click OK. Because I insert a string here, I need to add the string indicator. And then it's done. You see that all the rows of this new column was specified with the value I just put. So I can change the column title to name, and if I want to just reorder it, I can reorder it. And do you remember I still have the original latitude and longitude data over here? I can say that I only insert another column and put the latitude data, which is 29.7. Okay, and then it's added. Add latitude. The same way I add minus 99. Longitude. Yeah. So the data looks much better now. What you do is to click apply and close, and this data will be saving back to Excel in a new worksheet. And you remember that we used to have more than 12,000 rows. Now we only have only have 139 rows. It's because we've already aggregated data by date. So when you select the data that you just put in here, you see there's a right-hand side task pane coming up, says that this is the table that you just produced. If you want to do further editing, say that I want to do more aggregation, or I want to do data processing, like combine the data and time, you can always go back and see the data over here, as well as the steps. And you can freely click back to replay the steps that you just did. Okay, that's the steps that I showed using Power Query to format one row of data. And I can do the same to the rest of the columns. So what I'm going to show you next is that with this data, what you need to do is to combine the tables that you made from one sheet after another, right? So for example, these are the first table that we just made, and then this is the second one. And essentially what we need is to put all the data in one table so that we can use this one table to produce some of the graphics that we think could make sense. So what I need to do here is, see, when I select the data here, on the right-hand side task pane, the Power Query selection will be shown here, and then you can just continue to edit that. Double click, I want to continue to edit, and to append one table after another, I can just simply click this append button and select append the first table I made to the current table, which is the second table. Click OK, and it's done. And you don't see the data change here because every time it only shows 100 rows. But if we click apply and close, go back to the original spreadsheet, and you will see that we have the two different census data in one table already. And we can just do the same to the rest of the census data, and just in 20 minutes you get your data done. So after we got the data, how can we produce that fancy visual and video? So here's the data. So I just shortened the steps due to the time constraint, but you can see this is the final data after I combine these 7 different census data into one table. So another tool that I'm going to use is called PowerMap, which is also part of the offerings with Microsoft Power BI. So after you have that offering installed with your Office 365, then in the Excel, in Insert tab, you will see a Map button over here. So with the data that you have in your spreadsheet, you just need to simply click this Map button, and then it will bring up PowerMap. And this is the tool. It's called the tool, which is the visual, the interactive visual that I just showed to you through the video. So that's the existing one, but I just want to show you how easy it is to create a new one. I'll just click this new tool. So once I click on that, Power Query instantly understands the data that I have in my Excel spreadsheet. You see, this is the separate window from Excel, and also similar layout. The operations and properties that you can see down on the right-hand side, left-hand side, see the different tools, and here in the middle you see a map. So this map is actually powered and backed by the Beam Maps engine. And PowerMap, once it digests the data from my spreadsheet, it smartly tells that, oh, there's latitude or longitude that you can use to represent the position on the map. I can use either one because these are the same in terms of telling the rough visual position on the map. So what I need to do next is to specify what I want to put on this map. For the first thing I want to add, of course, is the stream flow, the average stream flow data. I just check the button. You see, because PowerMap understands this is kind of a measurement data, it will put it into the height of the column chart. I can change from these 4 different charts: the bubble chart, heat map chart, but not region chart because we don't have a region in this data source. So I just change it back to the column chart. And you see the stream flow has been aggregated. What I want to do is that because I've already done aggregation in Power Query, so I will just skip that step, says no aggregation. And then the second thing I want to do, you remember that we already have a time specified in our table. I just want to check this time. In Power Query, PowerMap smartly detect this is the datetime format that they can understand. It can understand in the PowerMap and add another axis on the bottom, which is a time axis. Also here you can see the datetime has been specified here. The last thing I want to do is to put the sensor name on top, and then it represents in different color on the map. You can see the different color represents a different place and different sensors. And here we go. We have active animated map that we just saw before. Very easy, right? Less than 3 minutes, you get this fancy visual. And if you don't like this kind of map, you can also change from different themes of maps. For example, the one that I use, I think it's this one. So this is the one that we use. And you can navigate it through, zoom in, zoom out while you play the time series. And another fancy thing that you can do is to not only capture a screenshot, but also you can create a video from this place or two. By just click this button, you can create different quality of videos. Just at the same time, I'm not going to reproduce this video, but it's very easy. Just choose the quality of the video that you want and click create, and PowerMap will start to create the video for you. And then with the video, which is in a packed format, you can then share that to any place like a YouTube or any other place that you want to share, or through email. Okay, so this is PowerMap. So the next thing I want to talk about, also back to Power Query, is that you see that when I get the data from Power Queries, actually I just make a table in the Excel spreadsheet and retrieve the data from that table into Power Query to do the data processing. However, Power Query's ability is much more than that. It not only can retrieve the data from web, from like Excel different files, and from different type of data sources or databases, or even from like Facebook feeds, all data feeds, or like Azure Marketplace, just to show the power of the cloud connection, or just to show you that we can make use of the Windows Azure blob storage. For example, I already have a blob storage called Azure Data. Click OK. And then Power Query will bring up the category and the container from my Azure storage blob. And from the different blob, you can load the data into Power Query directly. You see, this is a binary that is loaded from the Azure blob. And this is essentially the same data I just processed. And you can start over from there to process the data in Power Query. So just to show, this is the table, right? It's the same one. Okay, so that is our first demo today. So we'll give a few minutes for you to ask questions.
Jeff, so far I don't have any questions for you to answer. So if you'd like to go ahead and continue, go ahead.
Okay. So okay, so we'll just go ahead onto the second demo. So the next one I'm going to show you is
Jeff,
PowerView.
I actually do have one question for you. I'm going to go ahead and send that to you now.
Okay, the question that I got is that just wondering whether this is an additional charge for Power BI offerings or this is part of Office 365 or Azure. So this is a new product that's just newly released by Microsoft. And the current offering is something based upon Office 365, but it's a separate offering. So after you got a Office 365 subscription, you need to pay some amount of actual money to get these offerings. That's the offering for now, but I think for the EDU users, for the education sector users, what I know is that probably there will be a separate plan, but just stay tuned, and I believe there will be some plan coming out. Okay, so shall we go back to our demo?
Yep. And you have a few compliments too. It's a great demo so far.
So the next thing I'm going to show you is the PowerView. So PowerView, as I mentioned earlier, is an interactive dashboard. I remember that I mentioned that a lot of times the better data insights come from combining the different perspectives of data. So PowerView, although it's served as like the getting quick business insight, making business decisions, but to me, from what I see, it's also helpful for the researchers to doing the research by seeing the data from different perspectives. So here's an example. This is another kind of like environmental study data, which is the marine data that's gathered around Puget Sound, which is the area around Seattle, area, big Seattle area. So on the left-hand side is a map, also based on BIMAP, shows the different marine data, and you can navigate the map. Actually, this is active, and you can navigate, zoom in, zoom out, and see the different positions of the marines or sensors alongside the Puget Sound area, and see where the data is actually gathered. On the right-hand side, this is the data actually from also similar with the demo that we showed just now. It's the raw data of the discharge data or the stream flow data that we gathered from the marines. So I got this data from a website from environmental government. Shows the like different tides, changes or the waves changes along different rivers around Puget Sound area. The cool thing of that is that you see the 2 or 3 different perspectives on one map. For example, the geo positions of the different marines, and you see the discharge data on each sensor, as well as the stream flow data. And another cool part is that the data between the charts on this dashboard is actually associated. What I mean by that is that, for example, if I click on this big spot over here, means that you are selecting this marine. On the right-hand side, it only shows this marine, which is marine the Skagit. And this, as I said, that you can see a kind of geo-in view of the data in for this marine sensor. So if I want to only see, for example, this discharge data is too prominent, I want to see the details of this stream flow data. What I want to do is very simple. It's just to like unselect the discharge data for a moment, and then I can see the stream flow data. So actually, that by comparing the shape of the line chart of these 2 different measurements, you can see they are essentially the same. It's just that the measurement is different, right? And I can also unselect the specific marine from the map, and then you can see the overall view. Okay, so it's kind of very fancy. And some other fancy thing that you can do here is to like, for example, I can change, if I don't like the background of the map, I can change to the row map. And if I want to see the name of the marine directly on the map, I can also do that. Or here, if I don't like the line chart, I can also change the chart type to be column chart just by a couple of clicks. It's very convenient. So some of the power that we can do here is that, for example, that go back to, let me change that to like this. So for example, that I only want to see these three marines data in green, Nisqually and PowerMap. So what I want to do is select this chart and filter the chart by only choose these three marines, and I might compile this discharge data of these three different marines. Or if I only want to, as I mentioned earlier, I only want to see the stream flow data, I can also see that here. So just by purely seeing this shape of the line, you probably can ask yourself a question. This looks like the stream flow of these three different marines looks similar in terms of the pattern, right? They must share the similar pattern, especially between these two green and Nisqually. And in terms of PowerMap, the pattern is similar, it's just have a larger volume. There must be something happen behind that. So why is that? When I ask myself that question, I go back to the map, come back to this view. As I said, that I just want to take a closer look at the data of these three different marines. I figured that they share a similar pattern, and I just ask myself a question: why they have the similar pattern? I go to the map, I check the position of these three different marines. The green is here, PowerMap is here, and Nisqually is here. So I see there's a big snow mountain over here, which is the mountain Rainier. I live in this area, I know that. So probably the reason that they share the similar pattern is not only the geoposition of this stream marine or the river, is all like the data source or the water source is mostly from the mountain. Also is that, when I asked some of the researchers who study this marine data in the Puget Sound area, they told me that actually the water comes from the snow mountain, and these two rivers go through Green and Nisqually, and they will just go back, concentrate in this point at PowerMap. That's why, the water comes from these two rivers and merged into Puget Sound through PowerMap. That's why we see this pattern. So isn't that interesting? I feel it's very interesting just by these few clicks. So you may wondering, this fancy chart dashboard, how can I create that? It's actually very easy. I'm going to show you that. So also with the Power BI offering together with Office 365, and once you have that, you will see a button here in the Insert tab in Excel. It says PowerView. Here I'm just going to click on PowerView and create a new one, and specify your name first. So we'll handle the question later. Just put the name first, and then what I want to do is I want to add the marine data onto a map. So you see the data over here. Ignore this table 1 for a moment. This is just experimentation data that I put early. But essentially, the data from the previous PowerView coming from these two tables. One is the facts table, which is this table, which is the similar data that we got from the previous table. Average the data, aggregate the data by date, put the name, and the second table that we need to use is the metadata of each marine, which represents the latitude and longitude, and probably with the name, which represents in this symbol table. Okay, so go back to the PowerView we are going to create. First, I want to create that map. So what I need to do is to use the marine metadata, put everything onto the map, and you see here it's a raw table being put on the dashboard. So next, I want to make it a map. I just click on the map button, and it changes to a map. On the right-hand side, you see we need to specify the longitude and the latitude. So it's so easy, I can just do that by drag and drop. And then you see there are multiple maps showing here, but we may not need that multiple maps. So what we need to do, it's simply change the location name to marine name. And then I don't need these vertical multiples. So here you see the map. And through the layout button, I can adjust the data legend. Maybe I don't need the title for this one. And here we go. We got a map that we saw earlier, the original demo. Okay, that's the map. And next, what I want to get is a set of the charts, the line charts. So before I do that, you see that probably all of those dots doesn't really mean anything, right? Because the dots here, the color of the dots represents a different type of marines, but the size of the dot, we still need to have some specification for it. So you see the data that I'm using here are the data that that from one same table, but I can use the data from two different tables and show that into one chart. What I want to do is that here you see the size is using the latitude data, which is wrong. I just remove this field for a moment. And then I can select, for example, just use the discharge data for the size of the circle. So you see that's represented on the map. You may have a question, how can I connect these two tables together, just from the Excel? These are just two simple tables, the facts table and the metadata. How can I connect them two together? Actually, in PowerView, you can do that directly by clicking this relationship button. Obviously, I have to create two different relationships here. But what I want to do is actually create a new relationship between the two tables. It says that in the facts table, here I'm just using the name and make sure the name is identical between the two tables. And then choose the meta table and then use the name. And then I can create. But PowerView is smart enough to tell that this relationship has created beforehand. So I don't need to recreate that again. But if you are starting from scratch, you have to recreate this table by yourself. Okay, let's quickly proceed to the second one. Now what I need to do is to use the data in the facts table. Again, I put everything on the dashboard. And then I'll change the type of the chart to be a line chart. Then I will use the value discharge and quantity state is right. And axis, actually I don't need to use name as axis. I just need to use date. Probably is right. And the legend is value is right. And the vertical multiples, which is the vertical different tile of the chart, I don't want to use date. I want to use the name. Then here we go. So see how easy it is to create this PowerView. Altogether, it only takes 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and then you can get the visuals you want and start to drawing and draw the data to get the data insights that really want help for your research. So that's all the demo for today. So we'll leave 2 minutes for Q&A, and then I'll hand over to Kenji. Okay, I got a question of is there a way to save a Power Query and apply it to a different data set with the same structure and format? So I think the question here is that whether I can repros using the same steps. Actually, you can. Show that. So we may not have enough time to do that, but essentially the Power Query data is a set of scripts that you can program by yourself. So with the OM interface that you do, so you can just reproduce all the steps and do the batch edit against the different data sources. Another cool thing that I missed to mention is that in Power Query, not only that you can process the data, but also you can share the data to other people. For example, for this data I just produced, because I log into Power Query with my corporate Microsoft credentials, so I can just share this data directly to my coworkers in this enterprise or to any people that I want to specify here. Once I share that, then other people can discover that by search the data from this place. For example, I can just quickly search the data from this online search. It says that I want to search the data of the population by country. Actually, this is the data I believe has been mined and also formatted by some of my colleagues. Like, you can explore the data and preview the data in this way. And I can also land the data into my current worksheet by just these few clicks. So yeah, that's the way that you can share and reuse the data in Power Query. Okay, we don't see other question coming in yet. So, okay, I think that's all the demos for today. To quickly sum up, we went through the usage of Power Query, PowerMap, and PowerView by walking through a couple of research scenarios using the real environmental study data. Hope through these demos, you get a snippet of the power of Excel Power BI. All the tools that we demoed today was built under the philosophy of self-service style business intelligence and data processing. So which we believe that only by empower individual users, which is you, inside the data analysis tools that you already know, which is Excel, that you can do more and know more and become more powerful by yourself. So that's all I have for today. Here I'm going to pass it to you, Kenji.
Of Excel, and I think you know, a lot of people maybe have not seen you know, the full power of Excel and what it can do. And so, you know, it was great to see how you can quickly just pull in data. You know, when we talk about data science and data wrangling, and that term, you know, implies a lot of pain. And I think, you know, you've managed to show how Excel can make that really, really easy, and particularly around, you know, mapping of the data. So I'd really like to thank Jeff for that great presentation. If you want to find out more, the best thing is just to do a web search on Power BI, and that comes right up, and you'll see a lot more in terms of not just how do you get hold of Power BI, but also some other demos of it. One of the ones I love on there is actually some open government data being pulled from the UK Open Government Portal, pulled into Power BI, and then visualized, and then also, again, mapped to show actually some sort of traffic incident data. And it really shows how we can use the sort of new features in Excel to really unlock some of that data. So this webinar is part of a series in our Azure for Research program, and the reason we included the Excel Power BI was, you know, as Jeff showed, how you can hook to data in Azure, and that could be created from something like Hadoop, it could be from the marketplace, could be from something like Storm or Kafka for streaming real-time GPS data and being able to show that. So our Azure for Research program, you know, has many facets, including our awards, training, which is taking place around the world, and also coming online, these webinars, some technical papers, and also research community engagement. So we're at events and running our own events. Really the best way to keep in touch is on LinkedIn. We have a Windows Azure for Research group, and of course on Twitter as well, and the website azureforresearch.com you can go to. So with that, I'd just really like to thank everybody for joining, particularly thanking Jeff, for a great run through on all the new features on Excel and Power BI. So thank you very much, and I hope to see all of you online or live at one of our events or one of the community events. So thank you everyone for joining us today.
All right, thank you, Kenji. We hope that you have found today's information helpful. If you enjoyed today's webcast or have feedback on how we can provide you with a better event, please let us know by completing our survey. You should see the link to the survey in a pop-up box on your screen. As a reminder, all materials from today's presentation will be available approximately 48 hours. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenters, Kenji and Jeff. This concludes today's webcast. You may now disconnect from this call.
Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.